Meet sailing yacht Avanti and her crew, Gerard and Jacqueline. We left Cape Town in December 2021 on our floating home, heading west on an adventure of a lifetime around the world.
You are joining us as we just left French Polynesia and our planned destination was Tonga. But things go wrong and we change plans and head for Niue instead.
At least we have an exciting start to the crossing.
We caught two female Mayus on one lure, well, two lures on one line, and we managed to land them both, so we're very happy. The one is a bit smaller than this, but this is a really decent size, and they are beautiful, so this will be a few meals, guys.
Thank you, Leafy. The Mai fillet is fantastic. Very nice dinner after catching these two. It's the second day of our passage towards Tonga, and unfortunately Jacqueline is starting to feel a little bit sick, like a cold or a flu, so she's at the moment down below. She's sleeping most of the time, and we've started giving her some antibiotics. We do have some on board, so hopefully that kicks in and it's over in a few days. It's not great because that means she's a little bit weak at the moment, so I have to do most of the sailing and the watches. I only sleep a few hours at night, and she tries to be on watch for a few hours just to give me a little bit of rest. So yeah, because of that also we are considering to stop in Niue. It's an island. I think it's got some connection to New Zealand, but it's independent in some way. So we might stop in Niue just to give ourselves a rest. We do have friends that's about 2 days ahead of us that also changed plans, and they're gonna stop in Niue. So they'll let us know. You can't anchor there's only mooring balls, and it's quite exposed to the ocean. But that might be a good stop for us just to rest and see how it is. Maybe she's fully recovered in a few days and we decide to carry on to Tonga. So we'll see. Tonga is about another 1,000 from here, and Niue is about, I think, 700 from here. So it's more than a day that we'll be there earlier. It's day 4 of our crossing to Tonga, and it's been good going. The wind has been relatively as predicted, so we've had relatively constant winds and we've been able to sail most of the time. The only problem we have these days are the sun is extremely I don't know, light in power. It's definitely lost a lot of its oomph, and we are in winter now in the southern hemisphere, and it's June, so the sun is sitting in the northern hemisphere, and it's only rising, like, I don't know, we're only getting sunlight 6:30, between 6:30 and 7, and it also sets very early. And it's not very powerful, so our solar panels are really struggling to get the batteries full, especially on passage. We've noticed that they don't charge the batteries as full as quickly as they used to, and it's because of the sun. This is the first time we are really midwinter and so far, well, relatively far away from the equator. So the batteries are struggling a bit, especially if there's clouds in the sky for a few hours, which we have on this passage basically every day. So we had to run the motor once, and we'll probably have to do that every maybe second night, just to make sure the batteries are fully charged and that they don't build up sulfur, because when you don't charge them fully they tend to build up some chemicals which is not good for their life. And I also don't like to discharge them too deeply, because that also they only have that many deep discharges in them. Previously I mentioned that our batteries aren't, it seems like the sun is lost a lot of its power because we're in the southern hemisphere and it's winter. But it still seems strange to me that it struggled to just charge it and that it loses so much voltage at night. So I opened up our compartment where the batteries are, and especially one of them, while we ran the engine and it was charging, but the batteries feel very hot to me. So I know when I just installed them and we ran the alternator and we charged them, I specifically felt their temperature because I wanted to figure out if I have to install a fan here or not. And in the end I just installed a small little computer fan for the heat generated by the charge controllers, but the batteries never felt that hot. Especially one of them gets quite hot when it charges. So unfortunately we don't have Google and I'm not an electrical guy, so we have to figure that out. But I don't think it's normal for them to get that hot, and I don't know what the reason is. I can only suspect that the voltage from the alternator might be too high when charging, but that's not the case. The alternator runs at the normal 14 or 14.2 volts. And even now that the engine has been off for the whole day, we only charged them with the engine this morning, they're still hot. And that must be from the solar charge, which has not been great today because it's been cloudy. So something is up, and I mean it's brand new batteries. I really hope that the batteries aren't the issue or that they're stuffed, because yeah, it's quite expensive. But we'll obviously see what we can find out from battery suppliers or electricians in Fiji. But yeah, it's still a while till we get there, so we're gonna have to manage with warm batteries and not a lot of power on board. Looks like I'm getting wet again tonight. I'm a bit tired of these swirls and I can't just hide inside, so I have to come out and get wet. Last night I got wet 3 times and I think I slept 40 minutes in total the whole night. So that's not great. I want to get to land now and get out of the dangerous middle, please. We're about to arrive in Niue. We're about 10 miles out, so we're going to call them on the radio now. We're just doing a 24-hour stopover here, otherwise the fees are too much. If you stop over for longer than 24, we are allowed to do a stopover here, and it's actually good timing because we'll rest a bit, and there's some bad weather as you can see that just pulled in. That's going to pass over Niue tonight. So we'll be on a mooring ball for one night and then leave tomorrow afternoon for Tonga.
Sadly, the wind and swell turned on us, and we had to motor against the weather at a slow 3 knots, thus arriving in the dark and rain. A friendly neighbour luckily heard us come in and shone a light on the mooring ball so that we could grab it. The next morning, we were off to land.
There's no natural harbour here, just a wharf that's exposed to the swell. So the crane has to pick you up and you leave your dinghy on top of the wharf wall.
The beautiful tourist centre had all the answers to our questions and even offered to drive us to the fuel station to get some diesel and take it back to Avanti. Niue might have been an unexpected stop, but what a little gem. I was starting to feel a little better, but even if I didn't, there was no way I was staying on the boat when there's a new place to explore. We walked a little slower than normal and I stopped a lot to catch my breath.
We are in New Zealand! Oh well, the closest we'll ever get to New Zealand probably. We even have New Zealand weather today, but as you know, we are in Niue, and it feels a little bit like I imagine New Zealand. It's wet, it's green, the people look like New Zealanders, they talk like New Zealanders, and they are extremely friendly. So such a nice place to visit. People just want to give you rides and want to give you help. So very nice to be in New Zealand. Niue has no beaches, but what it lacks in beaches, being one of the world's largest raised coral atolls, it makes up for in sea tracks. Sea tracks are short, sometimes steep walks down to the ocean, with some crevices and caves where the clear water flows into.
What an awesome little island. I think if we had more time here, we really would have liked it. There's all these small little crevices and cave diving is very well known here, that I think would have been really cool. So I'm actually quite sad that it's so expensive to clear out. It's 150 New Zealand dollar to clear out, which isn't much if you just look at it as a once-off, but clearing into Tonga is going to be visas and almost the same amount of fees to get in there. So it all adds up and we have to choose where we stay longer, but this would have been a really cool stop for a bit longer, I think, and especially in sunshine. The snorkeling and stuff just looks really cool from a rainy day, so I think it would be really nice. This is the first season that Niue has been open to yachts since COVID shut down the world. They only have one supply ship bringing in food and goods from New Zealand once a month. Supplies are scarce and fuel is very expensive at a whopping $2.2 per litre.
On our way out of Bora Bora, our ventilation fan for the air compartment started making weird noises. It's just a little axial fan that extracts hot air from the engine compartment through a duct to the outside. So this one has been running a lot. It comes from the previous engine as well, and I think it's just the bearings. You can feel there's a bit of play on the fan. Luckily, I saw one of these in Panama and we bought a spare, and they look exactly the same, although it's not the same brand. You can see they're pretty much exactly the same. So I'm just fitting this one. We are here in Niue, so we pushed it a little bit and I actually had to disconnect it because it started smelling a bit like a plastic burn. I think it's plastic bearings that just started going. So the new one will go in tonight before we leave for Tonga, and hopefully we're okay after that. We are just about 50 or 40 nautical miles out from Tonga, and one interesting thing of this passage is you cross the international date line. That means that you start, at the moment we are about 12 hours behind our friends and family in South Africa, and when we cross this line you basically lose 24 hours. You go into the next day immediately, the same time, and we go from being behind South Africans to being ahead. So we are about to see the start of a new day as we cross it, so it's quite weird. And then we are, like we said, ahead of time instead of being behind time. It was my birthday a few days ago, so luckily it's not my birthday now, otherwise you skip 24 hours and I suppose you would skip your birthday. The other interesting thing about this passage is they call the stretch between French Polynesia and Tonga, or maybe to Fiji even, the dangerous middle. It's because there's a few weird weather zones. They call it the South Pacific Convergence Zone that sits in this area, and it moves around and it causes all sorts of weird weather. So we were prepared for that, and we've just had a few squalls come over, and it's not the normal squall that's 25 knots and it's over in 2 minutes. These last a bit longer, and the rain is way more intense, or longer lasting, not that intense. But yeah, not far from Tonga, so it hasn't been too eventful. At least we've got friends that's about 2 days behind us, that's really, or 3 days, that's really having a tough time. They had 30 plus knots of wind and massive swell. They never get seasick, and they've been seasick. So we've been lucky, but yeah, we're looking forward to get to Tonga. I was on watch last night, and I think just before sunrise, well, just before first light, probably like 4 or 5 in the morning, I was sitting in the cockpit. It wasn't raining like now, but I normally hear dolphins swim past the boat, and they make these small blow noises or breathing noises. But last night I heard a massive noise that I thought, geez, that must be a whale blowing. I was hoping it was not a whale, and I called Jacqueline. She was in bed, and we both came outside and shone with some torches in the water, and then we heard it breathe again, and it was probably 20 meters from the boat. So either it didn't know we were there, but I suspect it was checking us out and following us, because it kind of went behind the boat after that, and we heard 2 or 3 more blows, but luckily not more, and luckily not closer.
Thank you for joining our adventure. Next week we explore Tonga and its caves and have a few breakages. Please like and subscribe. Thank you to our Patreons for your continued support, and you can join them by clicking on the link in the description below. See you next week.